Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and this cute spider monkey is the new block in the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club. When I say the new block, the current block, it is June 1st, 2022, and this is new in the club today. And so if you're in the club already, you'll find it in your downloads in the clubhouse, and you also should have gotten an email that has a link to download it. And if you're not in the club and you join it anytime in the month of June 2022, this is the pattern that you'll get instant access to. At the end of June, it'll no longer be available, and then sometime probably towards the end of July, it'll be available in the shop at shinyhappyworld.com. But right now, I'm going to show you how to make it. At the end of the video, I'll come back and I'll show you some different color options for him as well. Here's how to make him. Okay. I'm going to show you here how to assemble all of the pieces in this spider monkey block, but I want to point out a couple of things. So I have instructions for two ways to do this. One way is what I'm going to show you here, which is not using a light box. And for this method, we will be looking at these lines that I've transferred, the markings that I've transferred from the paper side of the pattern onto the fabric side. What we will be ignoring for this version are the numbers on the back of the pieces. So the pattern includes a placement guide that shows you, you'll use this very explicitly with the, when you are using the light box, these numbers are telling you, in addition to where these pieces go, the numbers tell you what order you lay them down in. For the non-light box version, we'll ignore that. We'll be putting things down in a slightly different order. So ignore the numbers on the back of these, but I do want to point out that I'm going to be doing two tutorials using the same pieces. So I'm not going to be peeling the back off of these because I need that on there for the second version of the tutorial. So what you're going to see here, things will get a little bit warpy because the paper curves a little bit when you fuse it into place, and then when you peel that off, normally the pieces flatten down nicely, but we may have a little bit of bowing in what we're doing here, but it won't affect what you can see. So when I am doing this without the light box, I start always with the shoulder piece, which is the piece that is going to be lined up with the bottom edge of the block. And I'm doing that so that it looks like I've snapped a photo. And so the body is popping up into the frame of the photo. Now, if you want to do this and make it more of a floating emoji style head, you can just leave the shoulder piece off and just position the face in the middle of the block. But I'm going to show it to you photo style, which means going right to the edge of the block. So I've put the shoulders in there, but this guy also has this nice curly tail. And before I decide on how things are centered, I want to get the tail in the picture too, and then I can shift these back and forth a little bit. The tail is going to be placed very, very close to the body. So we're going to do that to start with. And I may decide to shift things a little bit more as I go. So the next thing we'll put into place is the head, and his head is, you could make it go straight up, but I wanted to give him a playful monkey look. So I've got his head kind of tipped at an angle here. And once you cover up this line here, that line shows where this is overlapping. And once you cover up the line, you know you've got enough overlap to have a nice clean finish there. So there is that. And then next up, we've got a couple of ears. And these just tuck in on the sides of the head. And again, there's a chalk line where I've transferred the dotted line from the back of this pattern. I'm just going to tuck it in until that chalk line is covered. I'll do that on both sides. Okay, and then we've got the face to put in. And the face just sits down. I cut away. There's a line on the inside of the pattern that you can follow to cut away. Just a reminder, this is what that pattern looked like without any cutting. So I just cut. You always cut these out on the solid lines, and that includes this solid inner line. And that cuts that away and eliminates having extra layers of fusible in there, making it stiff. So then this just lays on there. So if you cut it out on that solid line in there, you're going to have plenty of seam allowance to stay tucked in underneath there. And then we've got the eyes. And you can use the numbers on the back of them if you're having trouble telling which is the eyes and which is the mouth. Those numbers will help you tell you which piece is what. But the eyes are more round on this guy and the mouth is a little more oval. And then he's got two tiny little nostrils, which go here where I've marked them. And these are going to be not super fun to outline. They're definitely doable, and it's going to be outlined with black thread on the black shape there. So if your lines go a little bit crazy, that's okay. You're never going to be able to see them. But if you just don't want to deal with that at all, you can use a little bit of fabric paint or a fabric marker instead. I've got, there are other options as well, and I've got an entire post that lists lots and lots of different options with tutorials going to them for hand embroidery, for felt applique, which doesn't have raw edges, with fabric paint, fabric markers, where I've reviewed my favorites. All of those are for different things that you can do instead of eyes if you don't want to deal with small eyes. And in this case, the nostrils are even smaller than most of my eyes. So that's an option you can do for that. But these are totally applicable. It just won't be a ton of fun. So that's how he looks all laid into place. I'm going to take this over to the ironing board, position, make sure I've got everything exactly where I want it, then follow the directions on the whatever brand of fusible adhesive you're using. I use Heat and Bond Light. Fuse it into place, and then I'll take it over to the sewing machine and do all of my outline stitching, and then I'll bring it back here and show you the finished block and also show you some other color options. All right, here is the finished spider monkey. I've done all of the outlining on him. I also added a couple of catch lights to his eyes to make them look more realistic looking, especially on the monkey. I think it really helps because his nostrils and his mouth are holes, and you want to add the light to the eyes and make them look a little bit different. So there's a link in the pattern that has 3 different ways that you can add catch lights. I like to just use squeezy fabric paint. For those of you who were a little bit dubious about outlining the nostrils, I just wanted to show you that it is possible. You can see it more clearly on the back. So here are his eyes outlined, and here are the little nostrils, and there is the mouth. So that was just setting the stitch length on my machine pretty low and just going very, very slowly. And you can go around shapes as small as those nostrils. So I wanted to show you a couple other color options. And oh, before I forget, people always ask me about the fabrics. So the monkey fabrics are all from the Farmers Market Blenders collection. And the background block is from the Leafy Greens and Cool Blues collection, which is also the colors. It's the avocado shades from the Farmers Market collection. So these work really well. And these give you just a nice dappley background. And so I'm working on a quilt that's going to be the backgrounds are all going to be from the Leafy Greens, and the appliques are all going to be from the Farmers Market. And the background blocks are going to be light, dark, all different shades of that avocado. And it's going to make a really nice, dappley, sunny, shady mix background, and in a slightly muted green. So it's going to be very realistic looking. So it'll be a kind of a realistic background on what are essentially kind of cartoony looking monkeys. So other color options. Here's another one that uses Farmers Market Blenders for the monkey. And then on this one, the background block, this is one of the gray blocks from the Animal Kingdom printed quilt blocks. So I've got these blocks are pre-printed with your quilting lines on them, and they're in color palettes that really go together. This one is one of the grays from the Animal Kingdom color palette. Here's another one that's a pre-printed block. This is actually the same triangle pattern as on the gray, but it is a more subtle color difference. So this is from the Gemstones. This is a medium, the Gemstones medium color palette. And in this one, the applique is from the Animal Kingdom's Blenders palette. So same color shades that are in the Animal Kingdom's background blocks. In this case, these are the blenders, the tone-on-tone blenders, just some different blacks and one of the kind of tan colors for his face. The spider monkeys, usually the face is lighter than the rest of the body. And so even when I went with very fantastic colored monkeys, that's what I did. I kept the face lighter than the rest of the body. And here's the more realistic looking one. And then I've got one more. So this one, the background is from the gemstone blenders, or I'm sorry, the gemstone quilt blocks. Again, this one is the lights collection. The palettes are all available. There's a gemstone medium, gemstone dark, and a gemstone light. This is from the gemstone light palette. And this monkey is also from the gemstones blenders, but it is the dark and light purple. And again, I went with the lighter face and the darker body to give it that kind of realistic look, even when the colors are completely not realistic. It makes a big difference in how those go together. So that's how you make the spider monkey. Again, that's the current pattern in the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club, current being June 2022. I'm Wendy Gratz from Shiny Happy World, and I'll see you next time.